when you juxtapose the Trump White House versus the Biden White House, Trump was pretty much in the public eye 10 hours a day. I mean, he had the media in there. He was working, people coming in and out. It was like a full day thing.
They have to hide him because his dementia is so obvious. If they would let him, the media actually, if there were any real media, well, you guys are the real media, but if they actually let media have access to him on a regular basis, all you would get is gaffes and misspeaks all day long because his dementia is very obvious.
I mean, how much longer? Because they've obviously been able to keep up the charade at least to a certain point so far. But I mean, how much longer is it going to be where they can't keep this charade up, would you say?
Personally, I think they're going to off him is what my personal theory is. I don't think they can keep it up much longer, and they're probably going to give him a little pillow therapy in his sleep.
They said 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And trust the science. They shut down the entire world. All for what amounts to the common cold. And those who questioned them were turned into criminals. It's time to wake up. Pre-order your DVD today and help stop Lockdown 2 at covidland.com.
Whenever I see doctors that are coming on the air with us, you've seen so many of them. Obviously, COVID is the big thing we get into, the vaccines and all of that, doctors that are telling the truth, and it's always a refreshing thing. But Dr. Marble sat down and he saw the clip I played of Joe Biden, and the first thing that came to your mind was Joe Biden's mental state. So let's start off talking about that. I mean, it wasn't a secret. They had to cancel 2 presidential debates because I guess they assumed Joe couldn't handle it. And you were saying how you were at the White House talking about his mental issues. It appears to be dementia. And then you had a video that was censored on YouTube. So let's talk about that to start the show.
All right. Yeah. So, last October of 2020, I went to the White House. I thought the public should be aware of the obvious fact that every doctor in America knows Joe Biden has dementia. It's very, very obvious. So I went to the White House, made a little speech about that fact. Uploaded it to YouTube and Facebook, and of course, they immediately deleted it in a few hours.
And this was, you're saying October, right before the election?
Yes, sir.
And what clues? Because, I mean, I see, obviously, the Biden gaffes, right, when he loses his train of thought and says odd stuff, but also the shuffling around. It seems like he has arthritis or something.
His gait, that's called a fascinating gait that he has, his obvious memory issues, the way he gets angry very easily.
Which we saw that on the campaign trail.
Classic signs of dementia. He doesn't have mild dementia. He has at least moderate dementia. It's fairly advanced dementia. And the crazy thing about that is, I call him Dementia Joe. The thing is if we can't make fun of these people, you don't want to make fun of dementia patients, but we have to have some humor in this because it's so crazy and evil, all the bad things that are going on. But the bottom line is what's happening with Joe Biden is elder abuse. Jill Biden and the media, they are all guilty of elder abuse of Joe Biden.
Yeah, because they obviously know more than we know about whatever Joe is going off or dealing with. We're just seeing it in real time. We're seeing the stumbles, forgetting where he's at, forgetting what he's supposed to say, shuffling around. And so we just see these obvious symptoms. They actually know what's going on.
Correct. I guarantee you he could not pass a cognitive test. There's no way. He needs to be removed from office immediately. He's not competent to be president. He can barely read a teleprompter.
And if you recall, even this was even before you shot your video that got censored off of the internet because you were talking about Joe Biden's mental capacities. They even mentioned that during the presidential debates, I forget who it was. I think it was Cory Booker. Joe Biden forgets what he's talking about in the middle of a question response. And Cory Booker goes, "Oh, did you forget where you're at, Joe?" or something like that, and starts laughing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that Booker never thought he would actually win and become president. Look, I never thought he would win, but apparently they rigged the election. I mean, everybody knows they did.
And so now we're stuck with Joe Biden in the White House, who,
we're stuck with an old man who has obvious dementia, who's completely, totally incompetent. He's just a puppet, obviously. And what they're doing is abusive towards him.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously they're able to get him out on the stage for maybe an hour or so a day. He is giving speeches. He just delivered a speech at the UN. How difficult is it to have somebody that's suffering from dementia with whatever level Joe is at right now or whatever else he's suffering from? How hard is it? How difficult is it to actually get somebody like that? I mean, is it like you're guaranteed like an hour a day they're going to be together, or how can they even pull this off?
That is the difficulty of it. There's no way they're going to be able to continue this charade for 4 years. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, because I can't even imagine. I mean, he's late to almost every press conference. He's late to almost every event where he's supposed to be speaking. He's falling asleep in the middle of the Oval Office with the cameras. I mean, how, like you said, I don't know how they could do this for 4 more years. I don't know how they're doing it now. I mean, how would you do it? Let's say they say, hey, look, we've got this dementia-ridden guy. He's the president.
Maybe give him some stimulus, like some Ritalin or some Adderall or something, and kind of let him sleep a lot and give him the Adderall or Ritalin right before he, has a pressing event where he has to go out in public. And of course, then they have to put it all. He's always choreographed on the teleprompter. So you could attempt to do it, and obviously that's what they're doing, but they're not going to be able to keep it up much longer.
Well, President Trump, I believe he took his cognitive test, and it was a drug test too. I think it was maybe a year into office. He passed the cognitive test. We found out he was on, I think, a couple prescription meds for maybe a heart deal or something. Why hasn't Joe Biden been subjected to that same thing? Well, I guess we know why.
Because he would fail. I guarantee you, if they gave him a cognitive test and filmed it, 100% of the time he would fail.
And if we found out what type of drugs that he was using too, I think that would be very telling.
They have to have him on a stimulant of some sort, I would imagine.
Yeah, or even multiple ones, because you can tell when he's going down and it's like, okay, he needs to pick me up or he needs to get off the stage, versus the times where he seems like he's on some sort of a high and he's like really stimulated and really able to hold himself together. But I mean, that's just a whole nother issue. That's not even getting into the COVID issue. Yes, there's Trump calling for Biden to take a drug test before the debate, obviously assuming that he would be on some sort of a stimulant for the single debate. They had to cancel the other ones.
We are the laughingstock of the world right now. Everybody, it's obvious to every common citizen that Joe Biden is not competent.
How dangerous is that? I mean, let's say you have somebody you're dealing with that is suffering from dementia that has any other kind of a job out there. I mean, what type of typical, what would a doctor advise somebody that's suffering from dementia? Let's say they have an important job, whether it's in a manufacturing plant or maybe they run a marketing firm or something. I mean, would doctors say, hey, you need to take a step back, you need to take some time off work, or what?
Certainly, if I had any patient with that level of dementia, they would not be working. They would not be allowed to work because they're not competent to work. So the fact that they're doing this it's crazy what's happening with him. They're propping him up. It's really kind of sad. And he should not, they talk about, General Milley and the nuclear weapons and the codes. What if Joe Biden gets angry one day and decides, hey, I want to nuke the guys who are my puppet masters in China, because obviously he's corrupted by China. So him being in charge of the nuclear launch is way scarier than Trump being in charge of it. Trump's very competent and obviously is very smart and intelligent and could easily pass a cognitive test. Joe Biden cannot.
Would you even let somebody with this level of dementia drive a vehicle?
I would not. No.
I mean, it's just crazy to think, because I've seen what's happened to elderly people when they get dementia and they start to slide. And there's some, it's kind of tough on a family when they're sitting at a dinner table, they forget where they are, or they want to drive a car, but they can't, or they want to go do something, but they can't. And this guy is basically being told to run America, run the free world. And who knows if he can even hold himself together. He may be incontinent.
Certainly wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he'd see this interview and probably crap his pants.
He may be doing that right now. I don't know where Biden is right now. Is anybody?
They're hiding Biden.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I mean, and when you juxtapose the Trump White House versus the Biden White House, Trump was pretty much in the public eye 10 hours a day. I mean, he had the media in there. He was working, people coming in and out. It was like a full day thing.
They have to hide him because his dementia is so obvious. If they would let him, the media actually, if there were any real media, well, you guys are the real media, but if they actually let media have access to him on a regular basis, all you would get is gaffes and misspeaks all day long because his dementia is very obvious.
I mean, how much longer? Because they've obviously been able to keep up the charade at least to a certain point so far. But I mean, how much longer is it going to be where they can't keep this charade up? Would you
Personally,
say?
I think they're going to off him. Is what my personal theory is. I don't think they can keep it up much longer, and they're probably going to give him a little pillow therapy in his sleep.
They won't even actually show a negative COVID test for Joe, because that might even destroy their whole COVID narrative too. If Joe Biden got COVID and survived, then they couldn't, fearmonger over COVID. But when we get back, we'll get into the COVID news and the vaccine news with Dr. Benjamin Marble. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It is through our five senses that we are kept fascinated and hypnotized by the lies we are told. And the only way to see through this illusion is with our higher senses, which is why fluoridated water is a big problem. Consuming too much fluoride forms phosphate crystals around the pineal gland and shuts down its natural functions. Natural functions which have been known for millennia. The Hindu chakras align with the endocrine system. The chakra aligned with the pineal gland is the third eye, also described as the seat of the soul. The pineal gland is what connects us to higher levels of consciousness and otherwise unseen dimensions of reality. Fluoride-free water is essential to keeping our pineal gland healthy. Our water filtration systems with the proper filters will keep your drinking water fluoride-free, and the ProPure shower head will seal the deal. Get them both today for yourself or a friend at InfoWarsStore.com.